Hey everybody. So, I've been kind of working on a controversial rant video, and I'm not sure when or if I want to post it, because that's one of those things where it's a little bit more of my personal thoughts on things that happen in the world. And, well, I'm gonna post it, I just don't know when. So I got a couple of subscribers when I did the 2019 Openers Open. And I got a couple of subscribers when I did the Pokemon series in Minecraft. And I don't really know, it's one of those things that are gonna hit a lot of hot button topics, and a lot of things that are a little bit, people don't usually talk about. So I'm continuing in that video today. And this I'm talking a little bit more about personal experiences, because honestly, I have traveled a good bit. I have seen some of the world, some of the United States. Can't say world, never been out of the country, but I have traveled a bit. I have lived different lifestyles. I have seen different things. And I want to start by saying that I would tell you my story, but I don't know if my story is my story, if that makes sense. It's like somebody picked me up one day. It was one of my ex-girlfriend's aunt, and they asked me how I was doing, and I was like, I don't know really how to answer that question. They asked me to explain, and my best way to explain this is to say something like, it's like somebody removed my memories, alright? It's like you take everybody's memory, or you take somebody's memory of everything they ever learned their entire life, you download it to a computer, and you pick and choose what you want to remove. And it's like somebody did that to me. I don't know how. I mean, if I look at it from a scientific point of view, I'd say if almost everything is now replicatable through science, like almost everything, from what I've seen and saw and learned throughout my life. And neurons firing in the brain, and the information center of the brain, is basically small electrical impulses. So, for somebody to replicate that, artificial intelligence, so to speak, it's not all that sci-fi to me anymore. And I'm sure some of you people that are a little bit more immersed in different things that happen scientifically, I'm sure you guys know a little bit more about the topic than I do. But once again, I can only talk about what I know and what I see. I don't really want to elaborate too much on topics that I don't know about. So, anyways, so it's like large chunks of my memory have been removed, alright? And in order to make the memories, to me, make some semblance of sense, it's like somebody put in an artificial story to kind of link them together, if that makes sense. So certain things are removed, and then it's kind of purdy, right? And then to add it back in and make it make sense that, me or anybody else would ask questions, it's like somebody added whatever they could to make it make sense. Like, okay, so little Johnny Appleseed is walking through the woods, and he picks an apple from a tree. So they delete all that. They're like, little Johnny Appleseed was walking, and now he has an apple. That's the information that he has. So to make it make sense, they put in some stock footage of little Johnny Appleseed going to the store and purchasing an apple. So now Johnny, he was walking, that's true. He has an apple, that's also true. But how he got the apple has been altered in his memory, and he ain't gonna ask questions because it makes sense. Get what I'm saying? So I've been watching a lot of like YouTube confession videos, like YouTubers that went bat nuts crazy and killed their family, or YouTubers that did something like ran through a store butt naked, covered in kerosene, and lit themselves on fire, or stupid stuff like that. And I'm like, what would possess somebody to do something like that? And then I think about it. I'm like, whatever's going on with me, whoever's messing with my mind meat, like, something like that could happen, like, potentially. And like, I don't know when you ever had something where the more you think about something, the more it makes sense, where you're like, okay, 2 plus 2 equals 5. And your entire life, you're like, no, it doesn't. But somewhere down the road, you keep thinking about it, and you keep thinking about it, and you keep thinking about it, and you're like, oh, well, maybe. And the answer's still no. The answer's still, 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 5. But you think that, hey, somewhere along the line, you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe. And then you're like, it could never be the case. But something triggers in your brain to tell you that, oh, this is possible. So let's talk about this on a more personal level. What I know right now, besides, walking in the middle of the woods, what I actually have memories of, and what I know right now. So it's like, you ever hear the story, an angel and a devil on your shoulder? Have you ever heard the story, you have 2 wolves inside you, whichever one you feed? Like, one's like the Christian version, and one's like the Native American version. Don't quote me, because once again, I could be talking complete nonsense, because I don't actually know what I'm talking about. But these things in my mind exist. So it's like having an angel and a devil on my shoulder. And so in crazy people talk, it's like having voices in my head. And sometimes it's like watching a video, and sometimes it's like listening to like the very first ham radio that ever existed. And sometimes it's like, okay, so a pretty long time ago, when something particularly bad happened in my life, I sucked out a couple counseling sessions. I heard it was, completely healthy to go talk to somebody once in a while, and, it's completely confidential. So I was like, you know what? We'll go and try this out. And, well, honestly, it didn't really do anything for me. It was like, I almost felt like I was in a freaking dating site. Like, the woman was asking me questions, but they were almost like, it was like she was like scouting me for a dating site, or trying to date me herself. And I'm like, and she was significantly older than me. So, like, that thought never crossed my mind. I guess anything's possible. There are cougars out there, and I like to believe that I'm fairly good looking. When I was working out, I referred to myself as like a 7 out of 10. Now I'm probably closer to a 6. But that's besides the point. Going off on a tangent. But, so I went and I talked to this person, and nothing really came of it. But she asked me if I had voices in my head. I said no, because first off, you don't tell somebody you have voices in your head. Like, even if you have voices in your head, you don't tell somebody that. But at that time, not really. I mean, nothing that I couldn't pass off as something being my own thought. For the most part. Like, yeah, it's nothing that I couldn't pass off as my own thought. It could have been weird. I said things that didn't necessarily make sense sometimes, and I thought things that I would never actually think sometimes, but it wasn't something that, it wasn't like a distinctly different voice, if you get what I'm saying. It was like me talking to me, I guess. Like me talking to myself, like talking to this camera. But no, it was like me talking to me. So, I read it off. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I mean, I knew there was something wrong. Like, I definitely know there's something wrong. Not necessarily with me, but with what's going on around me, and what I see and what I think, it doesn't always match up. Now, I don't want to believe it's everybody around me, and I can't believe it's me myself, but I can believe it's me over the fact that it's everybody else. And the reason I say that is because it makes more sense for one person or a small group of people to be manipulating my mind than for, I thought I heard something metallic, so it wasn't an animal, but it makes more sense for something to, like someone or a couple somebodies or a computer program, if you want to get super paranoid, what's the word I'm looking for? What's the thing? Conspiracy theorist. If you want to get super into the conspiracy theory kind of thought, you know, it's not, like I said, it's not outside of the realm of, you know, reality anymore, in my mind. So, yeah, so, like I said, it's hard to talk about. It's hard to keep these thoughts. That's the thing. Like, I never had a problem with this kind of stuff. Speaking in public, yes. Speaking in the middle of the woods, to a camera, to nothingness, well, you guys, but you're not technically here, so it's not that big of a deal. I'm not standing at a podium. So, talking like this, I'm usually pretty fluid. But talking, well, you know, in front of a group of people, it's another story. But anyways, so what I'm trying to get at is that with these different voices and thoughts and things going on around me, it's easier for me to believe that somebody's manipulating me than to believe it's everyone around me, or it's me as myself. Now, I would imagine being manipulated over a rather long period of time, which I believe I was, at least, at this point, I'd say at least 5 years, that my brain would do it subconsciously, in a sense. Like, my brain would, like, force psychosis. I think I used that phrase before. Like, making connections that ain't really there because you're used to it, because you were forced to do it for so long, that now you're doing it, you know, more or less subconsciously. Alright. So, these here alleged voices in my head that I don't tell people about because they'll automatically think I'm a nut job, I like to think, for the most part, the main pillar of consciousness, you know, my metaphysical soul, so to speak, is keeping it in check. I like to think that. But sometimes, like, I'm told to do things that don't make sense. Like, today, it was like, stay home, stay home, stay home. I'm like, why? Why? It's one of the few nice days we're probably going to have left. Staying home is terrible. Like, it's boring. I'm just going to sit around and waste away another 24 hours of my life. Like, why would I do that? So, here I am. The big thing, the huge thing that gets me a lot of times is I have this here voice that keeps saying, like, you know, leave, like, get out, go. And I'm like, and I think about it scientifically, I think about it problematically, that I'm like, okay, so if I just pick up and go, what are my odds of ever having a life? And I come down to about 5%, because ultimately the outcome would be, where I'm at right now, my outcome's gonna be, you know, stay there till I go to prison, I die, or miraculously win the lottery, I guess. You know, my options ain't good. And if I leave, my option is, you know, seeing that I'm on probation, if I leave, my options will be death from, you know, because I'll be walking or stealing a car because I don't have one. So leaving would give me this here, you know, either I will die of hypothermia or starvation, or get picked up by the cops and end up in prison. So I'm thinking, like, the voice in my head tells me that if I stay the way I am, where I am now, I will die. That's what it's clear. Like, that's pretty clear. It has been repeated several times that if I stay where I am now, I am gonna die. And I'm like, okay, so what are my odds if I leave? So it's like 5%. I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, what I like to believe is my, you know, pillar of consciousness, I say, like, 5% to pretty much run away with a backpack and be mostly miserable and alone and uncomfortable fighting for what I want would pretty much bring it down to, it brings it down to the dilemma in my head: be miserable and have my freedom, or be comfortable with a lot less freedom. That's kind of what it boils down to. I can stay where I'm at and surely perish. That's what the voice tells me. Like, I can stay where I'm at and I will die. But I stay a little annoyed, a little bored, but I'm comfortable. If I leave, I have a 5% chance of making it, and I'm going to be miserable half the time, but I can do whatever I want as long as I have the money or the cojones to do it. So, you know, it is a bit of a dilemma, because in my head, I want to do just about anything I can for my freedom. I deserve that. I didn't ask to be born into this world. I didn't ask to be put into this situation. And I believe that I deserve the right to... Somebody should get me the building blocks so I can sculpt my life. Somebody should give me that lump of clay so I can sculpt my life. I shouldn't have to be pretty much stuck where I'm at. And one of the things that my grandmother always says is, you don't have to stay here. You don't have to be here. And I'm like, first off, none of the family comes to visit. So if I'm not here, you're pretty much on your own. Secondly, where am I gonna go? Prison? Or backpack away, maybe make it, or go to prison? Like, that's not good odds. That's no good choices. I talked to a preacher once, and I told the preacher, I'm like, Is this what we were born for? Is this what we were made for? And he kind of just shook his head at me and walked away. I'm like, good God, the man of faith has no faith, like, or doesn't have an answer for me. So I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, where does, like, you don't even have some sort of like philosophical mumbo jumbo that could, you know, potentially be charismatic enough to make me feel a little better, like, even if I had to fake it, you know. But no, nothing. Like, it was, it's like all hope is lost, you know. I never really had feelings of fear. I never really had feelings of anxiety. I never really had too many feelings of depression. And this was all past me becoming an adult. When I was a child, I had different feelings, a lot of depression and anger, I suppose. But as I got older, I developed ways to cope with that. One of the things that I do whenever I'm feeling a certain way is this: I walk. And the more I walk, oh, and drinking. But the more I walk, the easier it is for me to think, usually. But anymore, it's not really helping my train of thought. It's stowing the feelings, but not helping my train of thought. But and I'm gonna end it there for now, because my train of thought has been stowed. I need some time to think about what I want to say next, I guess. So later on.